Hi, Doug Andrew here. I'm here with my son, Aaron Andrew. He's an IUL specialist, and welcome to this channel. Three-dimensional wealth. I'm very passionate about educating you about opportunities that maybe you didn't know existed before. If you've watched very many of my episodes, as a financial strategist, one of my favorite financial vehicles that allows you to accumulate money tax-free, then be able to access that money tax-free. And when you ultimately die, it blossoms, it increases in value most of the time and transfers totally income tax-free to your heirs, is what I call a laser fund. Now, what is a laser fund? It's a max-funded indexed universal life insurance policy structured correctly and funded properly. So we get questions all the time from our channel. Does IUL really work the way Doug talks? Yes, you will see that it's one of my favorite financial instruments, but then a lot of people go, well, okay, what are some of the options? How do I diversify? You know, you don't diversify by putting money in inferior investments, by putting money in a bank or credit union at a pathetic 1% rate of return. I've always diversified in superior strategies or vehicles. And so that's why many people own several IUL policies, or if they only have one or two, they will oftentimes diversify by selecting different indexing strategies. So I've asked my son Aaron to show you some of the different indexing strategies, and they actually, with back testing and performance, you're going to be blown away with what they can accomplish. And on this channel, we have a playlist that actually shows actual performance. But I want you to learn more about this, and this is why Aaron and my other son, Amron, we co-authored this book called The Laser Fund, How to Diversify and Create the Foundation for a Tax-Free Retirement. So you can claim your free copy of this by going to laserfund.com, and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I cover the rest of that. I pay for the book and fire out a hard copy to you. This is 300 pages of charts, graphs, and explanations, and 62 actual client stories. But this episode is about how you can diversify and use different indexing strategies to be able to optimize the rate of return you get on a max-funded indexed universal life. So put on your seatbelt, get ready. You're going to be blown away. Take it away, Aaron. Teach them.
Thank you. All right, but let's get started into this and jump right in. So basically, there's lots of different IULs out there. There's roughly about 85 companies that offer IUL or Index Universal Life, what we like to call the laser fund when it's structured properly and so forth. But basically, every company is going to have different indexing choices or strategies. So with these indexing choices, you're linked to an index, and watch some of the other videos to understand more how indexing works. But I'm going to talk about this company's different indexing choices. So again, every company is going to have different choices. Some of them have one option, some have like 3 or 4, some have 10 or 15. This one has about 11 options right now inside of theirs, and they have some new options that are available. So we're going to get into those right now and jump into them. So I'm going to be pointing here at the screen and drawing to highlight some things for you. So this one right here, most companies have at least the S&P 500. So you're going to use the S&P 500 index. We're going to have a cap right now, a current cap of 9%. You see the guarantee is 4. So right now with cost of options and interest rates and so forth, those caps and things can change through time. So if interest rates, like right now, interest rates at the time of this recording have been going up. So in the future, take a little bit of time, but over time, that cap will start to go back up. Through the years, over the last 10, 15 years, those caps have come down a little bit because interest rates have come down. And as interest rates start to rise, after a while, the insurance companies will start to be able to raise these caps and these participation rates in these products and so forth. So I don't want it locked in. I don't want it guaranteed at 9 because the company can't do that because things change. Market conditions change. Interest rates change. So they need to be able to move that and so forth. And I want them to be able to do that so we can get a better return when interest rates go up. So basically a 9% cap right now, participation rate of 100%. That means you get 100% of what the S&P does up to a cap of 9. And a guarantee of 0 and no spread. So basically this account right here has a guarantee of 0, and a cap of 9. So over 1 year, if the S&P were to go up 5%, we'd get 100% of 5, we'd get 5. If the S&P went up above 9%, we would get 9%. And if the S&P went negative, like right now today, the S&P is negative from a year ago at the time of this recording. So in this example, we would get 0. We wouldn't be going down 10, 15, or 20%. We would be getting a zero's the hero. So it's pretty cool. And that's almost every company is going to have the S&P strategy on there, okay? Now, the next strategy is pretty cool, called an uncapped S&P. And this is the one that after the V-shaped recovery of the market with COVID, this one did really well, okay? So basically, this one has an uncapped, it's uncapped, so no cap, guaranteed. It's got 100% of what the S&P does, and a guarantee of 0, minus a spread. They call this a spread or a threshold of 7.5%. So we can go up to 10. Right now it's 7.5. So what that means is if the index went up, like let's say in around June of 2020 to June of 2021, the S&P went up about 37.5%, 38, somewhere around there, depending on which date you're looking at. So if it went up 37.5%, you subtract 7.5 and you get 30% return. So that's an example when that one does really well. So this one really does well on a big recovery. But if the market only goes up 10%, you subtract 7.5, you're only going to get 2.5% return. So it's not as good in that time frame. So this is why it's kind of good to diversify between these. And sometimes when the market's going down, this is a good one to get into if you feel like the market's going to be higher in a year from now. So no one can time the bottom, but of course, this is why you diversify between these. And this one was really, really good last year and could be really great in this time frame if the market's going down and you get into that one. So you look at the historical over here on the far right, and you can see the historical is 6.3 and 7.3 in those accounts. So this one's actually 1% higher the last 30 years in that account. Now I'm going to skip these others here. I'm not going to get into these two right now. I'm going to get into this next one here called the 1-year JP Morgan Mercury Plus. So this index, what's kind of cool is this index was just designed in April of 2022. So this is designed in 2022, really brand new. So here's what the company's kind of done. They said, well, hey, if we can create an index and looking back with the benefit of hindsight, let's create an index that would have done really well, the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever the time frame is. So that's what they've been able to do. So it's like, okay, if we design an index with these different components with equities and fixed income assets like bonds and, one of them has gold, this one has gold and oil in it as well. And what these accounts are called, they're called Volatility Control Index accounts. And a lot of insurance companies have been coming out with these since about 2015-ish, 2016, some before that. And a lot of these insurance companies have these called low volatility or volatility control index accounts. So these accounts have come out because with interest rates and so forth, they look at these and say, all right, with these accounts, we have lower volatility in them, and the index moves sometimes daily on how much is allocated to equities and how much is allocated to like fixed income or bonds, for an example. So because they're lower volatility, the company can offer no cap guaranteed in these. So no cap guaranteed, 115% participation rate, guarantee of 0. Again, remember, always, 0's the hero. You can't lose. Don't forget, your gains are locked in as well. So if you make a 9% or 30% in this other one like I talked about a minute ago, you get that return, that gain is locked in. So as the market tanks, let's say like this year, you don't lose those returns you got the last year. Your gains are locked in and you reset, the annual reset. So make sure you watch those other videos, and the annual reset is huge because it resets what the market is. But let's go back to these. So these accounts that are called Volatility Control Index accounts, it's so cool because they've designed these with the benefit of hindsight to say, all right, these accounts would have done really good lately. We don't know what they're going to do in the future, but we're looking at the last, 15 years or so. Here's what these ones would have done with these different components. So it's pretty cool, and they designed it that way. Same thing with this BNPP Global H Factor one, 145%, guarantee 0, no spread. So these accounts historically are looking about 9 and 10%. But these two accounts are kind of neat. Down here in the fine print, these ones have a bonus of 0.6%. So these ones, not only do you get higher participation than these that are only 100. So let's review that. Those accounts basically mean that if the index, let's say the index went up 10%. So the index went up 10%, you would times that by 145%. So you're going to get, times that by 145%. So of course you're going to get 14.5% return. So you're going to get 14.5% return. Sorry, you can't really see that very well. But basically you're going to get 145% return of what the index does. Or this one, you get 115%. So if that index went up 10%, you get 11.5 because you get 115% of what the index does. And again, the company can do this because with their options and hedging, it's a lot cheaper with these accounts to do their options and hedging than it is with the S&P that has a lot of volatility, okay? Because just to give you a little insight, those that understand this, the S&P volatility roughly is about 15 to 25% on average. If you look at the VIX index, these accounts target about a 5% volatility the way they're designed. And other companies that do these, similar things, okay? But with these accounts, the next two are the exact same, all right? So the next two are the exact same accounts, but you'll notice they have a higher participation rate. So these accounts have a higher participation rate than the other two because they don't have the bonus of 0.6. So if we get rid of the bonus of 0.6, we have 135 instead of 115, and instead of 145, we get 170% participation rate. So pretty cool. Like the index goes up 10% now, you get 17. You don't have the 0.6 bonus though, all right? So if you give up that bonus, they're able to put that money towards more hedging and options, and they can give us a higher participation rate. So basically down here, the last two are even going to the next extreme. Those ones have an extra 1% charge. So these ones down here also do not have the bonus. So they cut out the bonus of 0.6, but they have a 1% fee. And that 1% fee allows them to buy more upside. And so now we have 175% or 220% participation rate. All right. So look at the historical over on the far right. So let me just show this to you real quick over here. These are not 30-year historical on these. These are more of a, they can go back as far as when all the components were available, 17 and 15 years on, you can't read that, but it's 15 and 17 years on these. We're looking at 9%, 10, and then those have an extra 0.6 bonus. These two right here don't have the bonus, but have higher returns. And the last two have a 1% charge to get even more upside. And those are 14 and 15% historically. And then you got to subtract the 1% for the cost. But pretty awesome that they designed these to say, hey, if we would have had these the last few years, this is what they would have done. So we'll see how they do kind of going in the future, but we can diversify. So we have some clients that are going maybe like 25%, 25%, and 25% in these last two with the 1% cost, and you can change it up every year. And you can mix and match these whatever percentage you want within the parameters the company has. So again, every company is going to be a little different. This one has some really, really cool different index strategies. But let's scroll down here and I'll show you some of the year-by-year returns. And this is right from an illustration. So I'm now going to show you the year-by-year returns of these. So we start with the first one we looked at, the S&P. So we go here to the S&P 500. And if you can see these numbers here, we're looking at, I'll try to zoom in there as much as we can. This account you can see back in 2002 to 2003, the S&P went down a negative 19%. So what do we get? Zero's the hero if you remember. And this account of course had a 9% cap. So you can see if we zoom in here a little bit, we've got, there's 2008. So again, we get zero's the hero. But on the up years, it goes up 34 or 13. We're capped at 9. So when we look at the historical down here, this is the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. We're looking at 7, 5.8, and 5.9, because those include some of the lost decade where we had some bad years in there. But pretty cool, 5.9 to 7% historically in that one. You go to the next page, and here's the uncapped S&P. So the uncapped S&P, once again, here's what the S&P did in these different years. And so there's, again, when it's negative 38, what do we get? Zero's the hero. But the next year it went up 34%, minus the 7.5 spread. This is the one that had minus 7.5 off the top. You get 27. It's pretty cool. When you got zero that year and then you get 27, and that becomes locked in gains. The gains are locked in, it resets and so forth. But then you can see this one didn't do as well in those years because those years didn't do too well right there. But then other years like this last year, 16%, 7, 18, 0, 14, 13. So historically on this one, the last 5 years. So I want you to try to keep those in your head, the other ones. So remember the other ones were about 5.8, 5.9 to 7%. These are about 7 up to 11% the last 5 years and so forth. So pretty cool index. And this one really captures the gains in equities of the S&P. Now we go to well, this still has equities. These accounts now are the low volatility, or what we call volatility control index accounts. And this JP Morgan Mercury account that they designed recently, Again, they designed it and saying, hey, this is what we would have earned recently, so this is what we feel is like the best index. So it's pretty cool. They can go back and design an index of this is what we should use now, because this is what would have done really well the last 15 years. Pretty neat. So in this example, we've got the years that, like, look at 2008. So again, 2008, let's zoom in here a little bit. So 2008 to 2009, the index went down, again, the S&P you just saw went down 38%. This only went down 2% because it's a volatility control index account. It manages the volatility. So that account, of course, we still get 0. But other years you can see it's 15, there's some zeros in there. But historically, look at the last 5 to 17 years. Okay, we're looking at 8.8, 9, 9, 9, and 8.7. So pretty consistent there, right around 8 to 9% historically in the index. Now, when we run these for you, this is going to be ran at 5.7 because they force us to be conservative, which is good, the regulations and so forth. So we'll run it at 5.7. But let's look at the next one. This is that BNPP Paribas or Paribas. It's, people say different names there, but this account right here goes back only to 2007. So in this account, we've got a 9, 11. So if we look at this one here, and these are the ones that have the 0.6 bonus, by the way. But if you look at a couple of these here, we got 6% last year, 3, 24, 28. There's some zeros in there. But historically, 9, 11, and 12%. That is pretty cool looking at those accounts. Now we go to the next one. Let's stay on that one, for example. That same account we just looked at, so you keep that in your mind. This is the exact same example, but without the 0.6 bonus. So without the bonus of 0.6, you're getting 170% now instead of 145%. So because of that, we're now looking at 28, 33, 25, these different years of the returns. And the last 5 to 15 years, you're looking at 10 to 13%, 11 to 13% historically on this. All right. You go to the next one, and that same index, the global H factor one, this is now the one that has a 1% fee to get 220% participation rate. So you can see on this one, when it goes up 19, you times that by 220, you get 42% is what you would have earned. Negative, you get 0. You still have the 1% cost, all right? So in this account, it's not including the 1% fee, so just subtract these numbers by 1. But you can see some zeros, 25, 32, 36, and down here historically, 14 to 17% the last 5 to 15 years. And of course, worst case is always 0. That's what's so neat about this is worst case is 0. Other years, we're going to see very, very good returns on these. That other account, the JP Morgan Mercury, here's that one with the 1% cost. So this one here, we're looking at 13. The last 5 to 17 years, we're looking at about 13% roughly, minus 1, so about 12. This is the one that has 1% cost, and you're getting 175% participation. So that's why it says 21, you get 36. It goes up, only 3.8, you're getting 6.6. 2001 to 22, I mean, the S&P was positive that year, so you can see this doesn't always do as good. This did negative, so you get 0. But the couple years before that, it would have done 23 and 24. So pretty powerful when you look at these indexing strategies. So that in these different accounts, you can see each company is going to be a little different. And again, we run these, we're not running them at 13, we're running them at 5.7 in this company is what we can run. But you can see what the potential is in these with these accounts, and you can mix them up each year and change it, and change the allocation each year when you meet with an IUL specialist and which accounts might be best to get into. So these accounts called volatility control have some real power where the companies are designing these, looking at which, how to design these indexes with the historical data that we have these days.
So thank you, Aaron, for showing some of those strategies. Mm-hmm. The message here is that you can diversify into superior strategies. We have many, many clients that when they meet on an annual basis for their annual reviews, and that's what I recommend you do, and the different IUL specialists that I point my students to, they meet at least annually to reassess. And if you have $500,000 or $1 million, you can link, 20% to one of these strategies, 20% to another, and to another, and another. And people always say, well, which one is best? Well, I don't know all of them, but at the end of the year, you'll see, because some will have credited you maybe 15 or even 40%, others maybe only 9%, some less than that. But the average is incredible. These are real numbers based on actual history, where you can average 9, 10, 11, or 12%. Now, having said that, Aaron mentioned this because these companies, they're constantly trying to tweak. We look at the companies that are constantly trying to create indexing strategies to help you. So yes, they go back in hindsight 5, 10, 15 years when some of these different strategies were available. And so they're looking, and we have critics that say, oh, yeah, well, you're going with hindsight and designing this so you can create a really good hypothetical rate of return. No, what they're doing, my hat's off to them. They're saying, golly, if we had this kind of a product available in this strategy the last 15 years, which was pretty bad, what would be the best way to generate these kinds of rates of return? And then let's offer that so people in the future can take advantage from actual testing. And so it's like an incredible advantage. And yet critics say, oh, they're just trying to make it look good by using, hypothetical back testing. And so I appreciate what you pointed out here. This is a company, for example, that's trying to help you, based on actual history, create a better future based upon offering things that they didn't have to offer until they had that history as a lesson. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So be sure and claim your free copy of the Laser Fund. Simply go to laserfund.com and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling, and I'll cover the rest of that cost. And be sure and check out when you're in there if you'd like to talk to an IUL specialist like Aaron. And you can actually plug in yourself into an appointment and see how any of these strategies may apply in your particular set of circumstances. And they'll create hypothetical illustrations showing you some of these exact indexing strategies that we've been showing you. But you want to talk to somebody who knows how to design it correctly and fund it properly so that the max funded IUL becomes a laser fund. That's what you want.